Brief video, the 6th of June 2025. It's raining wet in rural Ireland today. Now, folks, this is about fake news. Now, the sources of news has exploded. The traditional sources had some degree of credibility, and traditional universities allowed different ways of thinking. Unfortunately, as the amount of mediums for distribution of news expands, the existing ones that we come to believe in, like the BBC and RTE, have turned to fakery. They're owned by the state. In Ireland, they get 350 million of a grant a year to spout out government policy, and they will not let anyone with a different view on. Now, I have long tried to explain about the renewable energy, the wind and solar energy, and how it's actually a pyramid selling scheme. And whether I'm right or wrong, it's certainly a view that was entitled to get out there. But they will not let it on. All of this thing, they print stuff about a wind farm could power 2.4 million homes. That's all lies. So the amount of lies being pushed out there is unbelievable. And then you have the Ukraine situation. How much of that is the truth? What is the reality? Is there any detail given? And then there are a lot of people on receipt of this news sitting in their homes who wouldn't understand complex things. They can't understand how financial accounting works. What are the limitations of financial accounting? So in my video, I'm trying to bring people up to speed as best I can. And generally the comments here are fairly good. You're worth watching because we learn a bit from you. So how do you know what's real news? I often make the example, supposing you're booked into a country hotel in rural Ireland and you and your wife goes for a walk and it's a lovely evening, and as you're just nearly halfway there, you can see your hotel down through a big field, but you have to go right around. You see a big dirty cloud and you hear a rattle of thunder. And you realise you're going to get drenched. There's nobody on the road. And a car comes along, driven by a big solicitor, and you stop him down and he tells you, oh, you want to know, for example, can you go through the field directly? Could you walk down through the field and come out down at your hotel, and you might just make it? The ground is dry, but it won't be dry for long. So you could open the gate, run down and get out the far side. So the first lad comes along, is not from the area at all, and he says, oh, there could be a bull in there. Look at the notice, beware of the bull. So if there's a bull in there, you're not going to go down because he could attack you or your wife. So, sorry, the cat is having a bit of exploration here. Now, so would you listen to him? The next lad comes along is a lad coming along on a bike with an old cigarette. And hello, do you know, could we walk down that way there? I wonder would we be able to go, our tourists here? And he gets off and you know what, I have only one cigarette left. I have no cigarette and I wanted to go down to buy cigarettes. Have you no money to buy cigarettes? How much is a packet of cigarettes? Well, you get a small packet for €8 and that. How much have you? I have €5 and I'll tell you, I'll give you the €3 if you can tell me for certain if there's a bull in that field. And he says, no, there is a bull there sometimes, but Johnny Reilly is saving that bit of grass for silage. You see the way it's growing up, you'd know a field that's been grazed. There's no bull there. You can go out there and run on down. Are you sure now? Because we don't want to be attacked. No, there is a bull there sometimes, and he puts the notice on the gate. But if you tip down, no one will see a thing. Get down there now, get through there, and I'll stand here for a wee while. But you'll have to give me a wee bit for me packet of fags, and you give him the €3, and you say, no, I don't want my wife killed. It'll be your fault. No, you're all right. There's no bull there. I know he's no bull there, and I know by the landscape and the way the field is that he's not grazing that land, and there's no bull on his own there because I go up and down here every day, and he's gone out there. He has land over at Rail Moor, and that's where he has his cattle. So, or he has them inside. Do you understand? You can take that information a lot more than you can take the big solicitor or whatever's coming. Why? Because he's there every day. Even though his education level is low, and his motives is to buy cigarettes so he can damage his lungs and keep you in everyone else's lungs as well, he still has the information. He has no motive to lie to you. He's no motive to lie to you, and now you're on his side because you give him the price of a few extra cigarettes. Do you get me point? So you have to evaluate the source of your news. And in doing that, you have to look at what they call clickbait. You go into videos, oh, something's about to blow. Oh, there's a scandal in France. Macron is toast. That's all wishful thinking to get you to clickbait. On the other hand, there are some excellent people, such as Scott Ritter there, Jeffrey Sachs, who's a socialist, believes in climate change, and that's why I don't agree with him. And there's Colonel Douglas McGregor. And there are a few other people there, even though they might be left or right wing. But one of the things you need to figure out and hear about when you're watching these people, are they realists or are they climate loonies at the back of it all? A great time for Jeffrey Sachs. He gave a speech to the EU, and he was giving out some. And then I was watching him one day, and he ups and says Trump's not right because he doesn't believe in climate change. So that's the end of that. It doesn't matter whether you believe in climate change or not. There's nothing you can do about it. Good night, Irene. We're going to have earthquakes and volcanoes now, and they're going to allow, well, volcanoes more, but they go together. They're going to allow more CO2 to escape than anything ever humanity could do. And that's been the way for thousands of years. So you've got to evaluate it like that. Now, if you turn on RTE on your car and you hear the news, here is the news. A passenger jet coming into Shannon got into trouble and it was diverted to Dublin and it managed to land safely. 2 passengers were injured escaping down the chute, but they're in hospital, but they're not life-threatening. Now you have the bit of release. Here you had an emergency. You got the plane down on the ground. You got people out without too much injuries. That's real news. That is real news. That's real news. So you can even take real news from the BBC or ITV or any of these channels, Sky News or any of them. But you can't take the slant they put on it. You get it? So they use omission. They don't let anyone who has a contrary view to get broadcasting their views. They shut them out. Isn't it a terror? I have nearly over 10,000 subscribers, and you'd think I'd at least get 2 minutes on the telly or the radio. And they brought me on before. They thought they were dealing with a mug, and when they discovered I knew what I was talking about, they shut me out completely. And in doing so, they damage themselves. Television has gone to hell. There's nothing on it. You couldn't look at television. There's nearly no programs on it. There's no comedy. There's no bit of fun. Now, I have to say, years ago, you had Benny Hill, a dirty little, when he come across as being a dirty little man. You had Frankie Howard, who was a bit of a bio now, in ways with the homosexual activities and all that. You had several more. You had Jimmy Savile doing the top of the pops. You could see the women jumping where he was touching them inappropriately. You had Dick Emery and you had Tommy Cooper. Now they varied, but the point is there was a wee bit, and then you had Sid James in Carry On Doctor. And in a lot of those videos, there was this implied message that that what we would now criticise at the inappropriate relating to women was primary. In other words, a new woman came, who would be the first to get her in a compromising position? That was the type of thing. Barbara Windsor played that role. So I'm only pointing out to you now, please don't jump down my throat. I'm only pointing out to you that central to a lot of the way of thinking in the media at that time was a type of promiscuous sexual anything goes thing, and it was always heterosexual mainly. Now there was your man in the drapery shop, I can't think of his name now, with the split in his teeth, and he was a bit gay. There was Julian Carey, who he'd go on, and you'd laugh at. He was funny, surely, and there was all these people. So that seems to have died out a bit. And I'm only making the point, would that have been a kind of an incentive for the abuse of children, the abuse of people? Was there a kind of a view, Jimmy Savile, oh, big cigarette, pants, people, and all this? Was there an element in that they felt they were entitled to do things of a sexual nature that were either illegal or wrong anyway? And of course, I mentioned Rolf Harris as well. Was there a bit of a thing like that? There is no doubt that this sexual urge is a very primeval and strong one, and we see the Jeffrey Epstein thing and all of this. So there was always that bit lurking there. I mean, these people who have money are well fed. They're eating beef, and they're eating lamb, and salmon, and good meals. And they either fatten and become too heavy to do anything, or it goes out in their sex drive. So I'm only making that point. Was there a wee bit of suggestion in the old media that led to some of this sexual carry-on? I'm not saying I'm right. I'm only telling you that is something. So therefore, on YouTube, they were advertising a device about the size of, I don't think what's here now, about the size of maybe this thing here, and it could heat your room. Now that's a lie, and YouTube should not have allowed that lie. Or another fella there called Jeremy Griffin, I don't care what you're doing, you have to stop now and listen till I tell you all about life. And they let that on. And then they have these stupid ads. But a stupid ad for washing powder, we can live with it because they have to pay the rent, you know what I mean? Now I think my channel, and you can post underneath, has no ads. And several said to me, why don't you monetize your channel? Well, the problem is if I monetize my channel, my viewers will have to watch ads. And I do turn off when a lot of them come on. Do you know what I mean? So these lies about energy, lies, go green, go all that. That's what I'm here trying to stop. And YouTube don't mind me. Now, I cannot talk about the needle, the injection, the mask. I have that on Rumble. Maybe I would eventually, but at the moment I can get away with doing all kinds of things, but not to do with that thing, the needle and the mask and all that. I can't get away with that. And I might as well stay clear of it because there's enough of other sources there for the moment. Maybe I would come on to it again, but they warned me several times, we'll knock you out completely if you mention that pandemic thing. Okay, so that's the story. I'm getting away with a lot at the same time now. You have to admit, I get away with a lot, and they hate me being here, and I enjoy doing this. So you have to evaluate your medium, whether it's the Irish Times, the Irish Press, or the Irish Independent, or whatever, or the RTE, or the news coming in, or the various news channels. As governments struggle to clamp down on the electronic medium, like my one here, there's more and more exploding the whole world over. The EU are currently working hard to censor this stuff. And the wording they're putting into censorship in England is that could cause psychological trauma or stress on another person. So the way I come along here and I say Eamon Ryan is a cabbage head, they could say, well, that's psychologically stressful, or it could cause stress. Or I say, oh, she's all LBBBQ, that's all that one's on about, that's all she's plugging. They could say that's psychologically stressful to LBGPQ people. And the only way we'll deal with that then is to organise a case to bring it before the courts and let the courts decide on the Constitution. It was primarily De Valera brought in the Constitution in 1939, and he put in protections, but in the Constitution it says nobody shall be deprived of their liberty save in accordance with law. So they let that little get-out clause there. Now, De Valera admitted himself he modelled the Irish Constitution partly on the American one, and he spent a lot of time in the United States, and he was born in the United States, I think. So we're the only country in Western Europe or in the world that has a constitution directly modelled on the United States Constitution. And in the United States Constitution, it has we the people, and it sets out the rights and the liberties that built the United States into the wonderful military, industrial power it became about 1965 and managed to win wars and everything. And they say they put a man on the moon, I don't know. But that's what it managed to do when they liberalised it. You see, Henry Ford, all he had to do was get investment. He could build his cars. They didn't stop him. Now, when he'd go to show that these cars work, they'd take it off him. They'd clamp down on his specific industry and they'd let others come up a different way so that they'd cash in. Do you understand? They used to say in Russia, if you picked a nice site and bought a site and built a nice house on it, and it was a nice house, some of the party people would put you out and give you an old room up on an old flat, an old yellow-coloured flat. They used to say that when they'd see you succeeding. So this is the thing about the communist-type people. They have no inventiveness of their own. But when they see somebody else doing it, they don't let them benefit and reap the rewards. They do provide patenting for a while, but they eventually push them out so that their people can come in, so that they can favour their own. And then when it's their own people, it's quite all right to do it. And you see that here, where we, the Irish, are bound by EU law, Irish environmental law, which is ignored in the case of the SCA directive. But when the foreigners come in, the migrants, they can get all. We have to get our cars tested. They get it done for them. We have to get driving licenses. They get allowed to drive with no license. We had to get COVID done according to them. They can come in with no vaccine. So you see the two-tier system and the unfairness of all of this. And that will be the long term. So the whole thing is one massive deceit. But anyway, folks, that's 17 minutes. I hope I've helped you to understand. Watch out for clickbait. Out stupid stuff. Such a thing. Oh, there's going to be a volcano off Galway. Oh, it's going to kill millions. Don't even go there. Don't even click in. You're only encouraging them. And give them a thumbs down. I do go in and give a thumbs down. And then you have this AI-generated baloney, where it's all generated on computer. And learn to identify the difference in real footage and artificial intelligence. You will spot it. You will spot it. And then there's artificial intelligence generated voices. So you'll know the way the artificial voices work. So for example, she'll say, the cow jumped over the moon. Oh, no, I'll give it to you. Hi diddle diddle, the cat played the fiddle and the cow jumped over the moon. With AI, it's hi diddle, diddle the cat, played the fiddle, the cow, jumped over the moon. They can't get the sentence correct. They don't know how to put a human meaning on it. When you hear that type of talk, go out of it. Have nothing to do with it. If they can't put a narrator on it to tell you what it's about, then don't waste your time watching it. Okay, has that helped you a bit? I hope I haven't left everything out. Just learn to filter the medium, and then when they bring in these controls, they will stop us speaking, like me, but they mightn't be able to stop me explaining how the law is working, and they mightn't be able to stop legal cases being taken to try and get our rights back to speak our mind. And there's talk now of Trump actually imposing some kind of sanctions on Germany over what they're doing, or at least going to the United Nations or trying to do something there. So that's good. If we had a Democrat government, Kamala Harris, they'd be let take all. We'd be in a complete prison camp. Whereas America, again, has always been the beacon of freedom. And in that area, it is holding the flag up. J.D. Vance is the main man for free speech. And he asked the question about all these wars. What's the point in America supporting Europe when Europe denies the very thing that glued the whole West together, fighting tyranny, and that allowed them to hold their lamp up? This is freedom. And now it's been taken away. And he makes that point there. How that'll go, I don't know. Nobody know. So now hopefully you're a bit better off there on fake news. Needless to say, Val's Pictorial Weekly, you won't believe what you see there. You understand that. Okay, we'll see you back, friends, for something else. Good luck. Thank you.